GFR Media, everyone hosting us here, and for that great intro as well. So, yes, I am John Levitt. I'm the general manager at Varsity. I have a really broad role at Varsity. I get to do a lot of things. The thing I love best, though, is actually interacting with our clients, and I make sure that I still do that as often as possible. And the opportunity to come visit with the GFR Media team yesterday for a few hours was really enlightening, and hopefully I'll highlight a few things that I was really impressed by that they're doing. So I'm going to assume that many of you in the room are not very familiar with Varsity, so I'm going to start there with just like a pretty brief overview of who we are, what we do. We are a New York-based company. We are a content and analytics solution that measures all of the content and audience attention coming to GFR Media's and the rest of our customers' sites, apps, social media platforms, so on and so forth. So what we do is we actually track the audience engagement, attention, volume of audience, social interactions, and we align that all with the structure of the content itself. So we understand who wrote the articles, when they were published, what time of day they were published, what topics they're talking about, what categories they're published to, and we can create this really strong alignment between both the content side of the information that we have and the audience side. And what's really interesting and compelling about Varsity, I think, is that we understand not just the volume of audience and how people are coming to the sites and why they're coming to the site, but are they actually engaged? Are they spending lots of time there? And that's a really important thing, which this conversation is going to focus on here. So, to give you a sense for the types of clients that we work with, you can see many of them listed on the screens here, but we work across thousands of the largest media companies and brands across the entire world. So in the entertainment space, that's companies like Viacom, MTV, which is very relevant these days coming off the VMAs, National Basketball Association. On the brand side, it's Travelzoo, Unilever. On the publisher side, GFR Media, of course, also Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Condé Nast, Timing. So we have lots of different types of publishers that are in our customer network, and we're used broadly throughout the entire publisher organizations, from reporters in the newsroom to audience engagement specialists, social media teams, analysts, up through executive teams, and also sales and revenue teams. So since this presentation is meant to be focused on attention, let's talk about attention and why it's important. No competition in the world is as fierce and constant as the constant competition for your attention. Right now, even though I'm on this stage, you would think it's very easy. I have all of your attention, right? But I'm constantly competing with your email, Twitter, Facebook, the person next to you, the thoughts of going to the beach because it's just a beautiful day outside. There's so many competing thoughts and opportunities at every given moment that really being able to capture that time and attention for as long as possible is the only way to make an impact. So the moment I lose your attention here, I may as well exit stage left, right? It's over. And the same thing is true on digital platforms. It's maybe more of a fierce competition even on digital platforms because there's always somewhere else to go, right? So really when we think about what gives us the opportunity to have an audience and how do I actually gain your attention right now, it's really enabled by the platform. So in this case, GFR Media renting the space and inviting you all to join us here to listen to this conversation. So I could have rented the space, I could have invited you all to come here. Probably nobody would come. I'm a nice guy, but you don't know me, and so you have no reason to come here. You're here because you have a relationship with GFR Media, and you trust them to put on a good event with interesting content, and so you have all come out. And when you think about digital platforms, it's very similar. So GFR Media has created these platforms where the audience is highly engaged, they trust the brand that they're visiting, and that gives them an opportunity to create impact with their journalism. It also gives them an opportunity to create impact through brand messaging and through client partners. So I guess the next question is, what can we actually do with attention data? Well, there's lots of ways that it can be used on the publisher side, and we'll talk about how the newsroom and analysts can use Varsity and make impacts with this data. But I actually want to step back because we actually have this really unique opportunity to look across thousands of sites. And the data that we can see across the customer network is really interesting. So look at an example from 2016. What we're actually looking at on the screen here is attention data on the 2016 presidential election. On the left side, you can see content coverage and audience attention around the Democratic candidates. On the right-hand side, you can see the same for the Republican candidates. And there's actually a really close correlation where we could actually predict the outcome of these elections as it was happening based on the output of content and the ingestion or consumption and attention of that content. So while a lot of the pollsters were surprised at the results, we were kind of looking back at the data and saying, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Like, look what the data is telling us. Look where people were spending their time and attention leading up to the events. And then when you further kind of dissect that and look at the geographies and how people's attention was spent differently depending on their geography, it was really, really tough. So, essentially what we're getting at here is the impact of frequency, engagement, attention, and all of these things that make a difference for publishers to bring new users into their site, to get them to trust their brand, to make an impact with their journalism, to maybe drive a subscription online. Same thing with marketers, same thing with politicians, right? It's all about that marketing funnel, which we've talked about a little bit already today, bringing users in, engaging them in the middle, and then eventually getting them to some event, which could be a hard conversion, or just, hey, I like this brand, I like this content, I will come back to this site as frequently as I'm able to. So this research was really interesting, and we've done dozens and dozens of studies, most of them posted to our blog, so if you go to blog.parsley.com, you can read more of the data studies that we've produced. But so we were really encouraged by the power of the data that we have. We're also really discouraged because we don't have the capacity to study all of the data in all of the ways that are really interesting. So it got us thinking about, well, how do we solve this problem? We could raise a lot of money, hire a bunch of people, and just become a research firm, but that didn't seem like the best idea. So instead, we decided to see what would happen if we put this data into the hands of other people, and in this case, our clients. What would that enable for them? We found that, we're able to uncover trends and opportunities that exist in the data to engage audiences differently. We're able to correlate attention to things that really impact our audiences as publishers. And we're also able to sort of gauge the impact of our journalism to a wider and broader audience. So these are really interesting things that can make an impact for the companies here today. So this brings us to one of Parsley's products called Currents. And Currents is a product designed to show the attention of our panel of the internet on a real-time basis. So what we're looking at is across the thousands of sites that we measure, 1 billion users every month, 1 million articles every day, and those numbers are of course growing. And this is across the local, national, and international websites that we're directly measuring. So what gets really interesting here is that we're applying a lot of industry-leading technology to the process that enables this product. Machine learning, natural language processing techniques. We're able to analyze every single article that's published across our customer network and extract out topics, categories, subcategories, and really create a view on attention patterns in the real world and how people are around you are interacting with content online. And GFR Media is actually one of the very first publishers to leverage this network-wide data to understand their audience and their potential audience, how they're spending their time, and what the opportunity is to actually engage those people with content on their site. So I know that GFR and some of our other clients have created marketing strategies and reporting strategies to really leverage this data that we're able to surface to their advantage. We just heard a little bit about CrowdTangle, and that's one lens on what the internet is sort of paying attention to. That's more of the output of how people are communicating to other people in their social networks. What's interesting about the Parsley data here is it's now going from that output of sharing and messaging to actually deeply engaging with that content, reading it, spending time with it, learning about all the issues. It goes a lot deeper than that surface level that you can understand just from the headline on social media. So both are important, both signal different things. The combination of them is really, really powerful. So what we're seeing on the screen here, this is just a small screenshot of part of the product, which highlights the ability to look at the topic of Puerto Rico and things that are sort of related to this topic. And so we can see Hurricane Maria, tropical cyclone, FEMA, some politicians, and this starts to paint a picture of what this audience is actually paying attention to within the time frame that we're looking at. But then you can dig a lot deeper here. So once you get into the, sort of a single topic of interest, right? You can actually see, here are the stories. And one topic, like perhaps Donald Trump, who has several storylines going at all times. So as a topic, Donald Trump is pretty much always at the top of this list across the Parsing network. But then, when you dig in, you see, oh, well, there's a lot of emphasis on this storyline right now. This other storyline is trailing off, but this other one is emerging again. And that sort of depth is really interesting and telling. And what we're specifically showing in this example here is you can actually see how other media companies are covering these issues and covering these stories. So this becomes sort of a content lead list for the folks in the newsroom at GFR Media. You might be covering the same story. You might be covering it from a different angle. This could be an idea that, oh, this other angle is really, really interesting, knowing the audience that we have. And we have that deep relationship with our audience. So we know exactly how to position this to make the biggest impact for the readers of our site. So what do we do next? We find, okay, here's some interesting attention data from across the web. Here's a story that looks like we could put a little more resources into to cover on our site. And then how do we actually get it out to the world? Well, Parsley can help with that too. So we're not just looking at those stories and how they're kind of traveling across the web, but we're seeing where those audiences are finding those stories. Most commonly, you're going to see Facebook, you're going to see Google as the big referrals of traffic to publisher websites. Pretty much regardless of the website, those are the dominant forces. But it gets really interesting when you can then find pockets of users in other places, like in this example, Flipboard. Does anyone use Flipboard on a regular basis? Okay, for those of you not familiar, it's an app that helps you discover news. And one of the things that Flipboard enables for a consumer like myself or like you all is ways to find new sources of information that you may not have thought of before. So this can be a really untapped audience. And Parsley Currents gives you the opportunity to then, click into Flipboard and see, all right, what types of stories are Flipboard users reading about today? They're reading about these things. Happens to be something we've covered really, really well. Do the Flipboard editors know this? Well, we should tell them about it. They may not have thought of featuring our content before. We can build that relationship. So it's not just about the direct relationship with the users. It is about that. But it's also about relationships with platforms and ways that we can really intelligently use data to show these platforms, hey, we have the best information on the thing that your users care about most right now. We actually have better data on this than you do, thanks to Parsley. So those types of decisions can be really critical to growing that sort of top-line user number across the websites. So that's all on the content discovery side and finding, what sorts of things should we be covering. Where this gets really powerful for companies like GFR Media is when you're able to compare attention data from across the internet, from across the Parsley network, to the data on their own sites. And that's where you enter Parsley Analytics. And this is a product that is used broadly, again, across, I think, the entire newsroom and beyond that into other departments within the company. And, I would say traditionally, analytics have been really difficult to use platforms. And it's been really frustrating for a lot of people because it's like we have all this great data there, but how do we get to it? How do we use it? How does it become actionable? And that's exactly the core problem that Parsley solves. It makes data very accessible to everyone in the organization. I know that there are dozens and dozens of people here at GFR Media using Parsley on a regular basis. I know there are screens in the office where the data is showcased so that it's always kind of creating this awareness. And that combination between the awareness of the on-site audience paired with what's happening outside of our audience, that's where you start to get to that potential audience that you're not currently seeing. But also that's where you get to understanding how you sort of really manage that middle funnel user group to bring them down into the loyalists, the people that come back every time you publish new content. So to give an example, this is some of the ways that we present the data. You can see that everything we're doing in the platform is entirely real time. So as things are happening, as people are responding to content that's being published, the user and team at GFR Media can see what's happening and make decisions, react, do the things that will make sure that those users have a good experience and walk away from that site experience as informed as possible. And due to some of the other presenters that we have here today and just sort of like an overall trend in the industry, I want to talk about something that GFR Media is also doing here, which is a focus on loyalty and subscribe users. And I think what's really important to understand here is that this audience is so core to everything else that the company can do. Being able to capture information on these people, first of all, that's great data. That's going to inform the way other systems work. So it'll inform how CSense is able to personalize site experiences. It'll inform some of the ways that we can market to these people for brand messaging. And I think more than that, it's an expression of value in the platform, in the content, in the journalism. And that's really important. Talk about that a bit more too. So GFR Media, of course, is not alone in this pursuit of subscriptions. This is something that a lot of media companies are pursuing these days. And like Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, GFR Media is able to find the most engaging stories for their audience using the two products that we just talked about. They're able to customize the editorial with the goal of building a highly engaged and loyal audience. So loyal, they're even willing to pay to read the journalism. Now we know that there's a lot of free content on the internet, right? So let's take a minute and reflect on that point right there. They are so loyal, they're even willing to pay to read the journalism. That is a huge expression of value, and that brand association, that brand safety, is really, really important when it comes to brand messaging through client activations. That brand trust is exactly what enables these people to be receptive to other ideas, other messaging. So again, just to kind of focus on this last point here. The more engaged the audience is, the deeper the connection with the publisher. That means the more receptive the audience is to brand messaging. It doesn't have to necessarily just be through subscribers or any explicit showing of, hey, we are in this with you. But I know that GFR Media has really focused on bringing that top of funnel user in the first time the user experience, and then working with the data to understand and working with the platforms and the technology that automates some of this to understand exactly what it is that's going to take those people from first-time visitors and move them down to become highly engaged over time to the point where they are coming back to the site frequently and delivering or benefiting from the value of journalism.